Hello, everyone. Happy holidays and welcome to the Ventures podcast. I'm excited about today's episode with Perry Azevedo and Natalie Grummer. We have created EnneagramNFTs.com, non-fungible tokens. We talk about what is Web3, what are NFTs, and what is the Enneagram at length in this episode. But in short, the Enneagram is a personality tool and typing system to help you understand who you are, how you can best communicate with those around you, so that you can ultimately understand your biases and lenses by which you view the world, so that you can help make the world a better place. So Enneagram NFTs, if it takes off, any revenue generated is going to support the creation of a decentralized autonomous organization that is going to be all about using the Enneagram to help humans flourish. We're going to empower Enneagram coaches and other professionals that use the Enneagram in their careers, in their professions, to help individuals succeed, teams succeed, families flourish, etc. So if you're listening to this episode, you can also watch by visiting wclittle.com. There we'll have more extensive show notes. And if you watch, there are points in this episode where Perry shares the screen and we get into the details about how we created all 9,000 of these NFTs. And of course, if you're watching, you can also listen anywhere that you get your podcasts. You can search for Ventures. So with that, please enjoy this episode with Perry Azevedo and Natalie Grummer. All right, Natalie, Perry, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Will.
Glad to be here.
I will definitely refer watchers and listeners back to the previous episodes that the two of you have been on for more extensive backgrounds on the two of you. But just for those that missed those two episodes, would you mind just kicking us off by telling us a little bit about your background before we dive into Enneagram NFT conversations here? Natalie, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm Natalie. I'm a visual designer here at Proda, working on a number of projects that we get through studios and labs, and doing all the crazy ideas that Will comes up with and helping out as I can to make things look really awesome. So
Sweet.
I'm Perry. I'm one of the managing directors at Proda Ventures. I'm a visual designer and a front-end engineer. That's kind of my background. So where the visual creative and technology kind of intersect is where I like to play.
Sweet. Well, thanks for the two of you for carving out some time for this recording. So first of all, background, Enneagram NFTs, what's up with that? So for any of you who have been following this Web3 space for the last number of years, you may have saw CryptoKitties come up in 2017. CryptoPunks were in that year as well. More recently, NFTs in the last year or so have taken off in popularity. We now have Bored Apes and Pudgy Penguins, and you name your animal or your club, and these clubs sort of espouse their identity with their NFT, their unique NFT in this collection set, and they'll use it as their profile pics. And some of these clubs, their NFTs actually give them access to either online forums or to physical clubs or events or things like that. So obviously, we've been watching this pretty carefully the last 5 years, last year in particular, and we didn't want to just create another CryptoPunks Bored Ape Yacht Club, something just for fun. Although fun is a key component of that, and those of us that are Enneagram 7s definitely have a few things to say about that. But the meditations on, hey, what's up with these NFT clubs? How can they actually add value to humanity? Why are people using them as their profile pictures to identify themselves and be part of a club? All kinds of interesting talking points through that whole narrative. But basically, the idea of Enneagram NFTs came from the reality that Enneagram is just a really powerful tool to understand who you are and how you communicate with your loved ones, with your colleagues, extended family, strangers you meet on the street, et cetera, and because of that, I just wondered: is there actually a consensus on the animals that represent each of the numbers? It turns out there is, and if you have fun animals, that are associated with each of the 9 Enneagram numbers, which we'll talk about for those of you who aren't familiar with Enneagram. We'll talk about that in a minute. Um, but if there are animals that are associated with each of the 9 Enneagram numbers, then we could just make our own club. Yes, spin up 9,000 of these NFTs, but more importantly, use it as a mechanism to teach people about the Enneagram, teach people about their own proclivities, their own personalities, their own biases by which they view the world, so that they can better communicate and ultimately flourish alongside other humans that they're working with or doing life with. So that's the idea behind Enneagram NFTs. And maybe before we get into specifically what Enneagram is, I'd love to just pass the mic to Natalie and Perry here and just sort of explain what has the last week looked like ever since I gave the two of you a call and said, hey, what do you think about this? what do you think about this idea? Natalie, you want to go first?
I mean, isn't that how all good things start?
Right.
Right? Just like, hey, I've been noodling on this thing. Like, you want to help out? Like, let's collaborate. Kind of put our skill sets and talents together and make something really awesome. Just because we can take some time and some freedom over this like holiday break where we're all taking a breather from the real grind.
Right.
Just explore something both creatively, and in this space which is kind of ripe at the moment. So yeah, it was a phone call of like, hey, we have this idea, how do we do this? So quick little bit of strategy, quick ideation, and then just kind of hit the ground running.
Right. And Perry, what have you been? Obviously, we found some open source things that we'll link to. Definitely want to give props to the original creators of that. But do you want to chat a little bit about what you've been up to the last week?
Yeah, I mean, like Natalie was saying, doing the biggest part of it was kind of like from your initial idea of like, okay, there, we have like a base of what the Enneagram is, and like you said, we can get into that, but like being able to identify, okay, people have already done the work with the animals. That gave us kind of good base layer to like start creatively thinking visual. So part of that strategy was trying to figure out with NFTs, like, okay, what can we do with these, pieces of art that are going to be create like very, like common, uncommon, rare NFTs. How can we do that in a way where we're not having to manually create 9,000 pieces of art, but we can create all the kind of like puzzle pieces that get put together and then like generate them all. So yeah, what I've been working on is like we found there's and we'll put this in the show notes, but Hashlips Art Engine is a great piece of software that the community has made where you can create all your different layers of the art. Each layer has like several different options, right? Like different eyes, different, bodies, different arms, whatever. And then using open source software, you can just tell it like, hey, I want to make 1,000 of these or 500 or 2,000 or whatever. And then it will go through and make sure that it's generating unique ones, and each one is pulling from all your different pieces. So the past week has just been kind of a sprint between Natalie and I of like creating all the art, creating all the different layers, talking through each one, making sure we've got enough unique pieces for each of the Enneagram numbers so that each of them have some fun options, and then then just plugging that into the code and generating it.
Sweet. In between family time over the holidays, definitely appreciate that. It's always fun to have a little project over the holidays here. So, all right. So we'll back up. What is Web3? I'm publishing today an article about why Web3 matters for human flourishing. In there, I have a definition, which if you ask 100 people what is Web3, you're going to get 100 different answers.
Yep.
So I at least have my definition of it, which is essentially thematically revolves around this concept of ownership, the ability to own assets and govern pieces of creative works that you do yourself, either completely or as part of a decentralized, autonomous organization. Now, we'll talk about DAOs here in a minute. And so from that foundation, most people talk about blockchains, distributed ledger technology. They talk about self-sovereign identity, metaverses, the self-hosted movement, DeFi, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a number of different talking points that flush out people's answer to what is Web3. And so we won't spend too much time on this episode talking about it. I'll refer you back to previous episodes where we've attempted to define that at length. But within Web3, there's this concept of an NFT, a non-fungible token. Basically a token that you can prove is your thing, similar to buying a piece of art in an art gallery. If it's one piece of art that an artist has created, then you can go buy that piece of art, put it in your own home, and know that that's your own unique piece of, it's your own unique asset. Well, analogously, on blockchain, you can create a unique digital asset called a non-fungible token, or NFT for short. That's NFTs. Now, what is Enneagram? All right, so we'll link to more materials. We won't define it at length. But Enneagram is essentially defining all humanity, right? Almost 8 billion people into roughly 9 different personality types. And the 9 personality types are not, it's not like Myers-Briggs or not like DISC or not like Strength Finders, not like some of these others. The Enneagram is actually all about what is the personality that you have adopted from your childhood to sort of deal with life. And everybody is actually the best of all 9 numbers, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But one author said it beautifully and said that your Enneagram number is who shows up when you don't.
Yeah.
Meaning you are the best of all 9 numbers. You have these 9 facets to be a whole human, but because of different reasons, you tend to express a personality in 1 or 9 of these numbers. So briefly, the 9 numbers. Number 1, the perfectionists. They see the world as perfect, non-perfect. Number 2, helpers. They see the world as helpful, not helpful. Number 3, the performers. They are constantly having to judge themselves internally by their ability and actual outcomes of getting things done. Number 4 is the authentic, creative, the bleeding heart artists, but they're not always artists. There are people who believe in authenticity. So whereas 2 see the world as helpful, not helpful. 3 see it as performant, not performant. 4 see it as authentic, not authentic. Brings us to 5. Fives are all about wisdom, intelligence, knowing things in their head. They very much live in their heads. They see things as wise, not wise. 6 are the loyalists. They see themselves as not only loyal, but their loyalty goes to their brains such that they see the worst case scenario playing out everywhere. They could see worst case scenario happening. And the animal associated with the 6, and we'll talk about the animals here later, is a wolf. Because of their loyalty and because of their ability to see things that the other 9 don't, they are an extremely valuable asset to a team. 7s, this is me and Perry. we are the enthusiasts. We are very easily chasing after shiny objects, and we see the world as fun, not fun. 8. Now 8s are the reformers, the challengers. They see the world as powerful, not powerful. And they tend to be leaders of organizations. They tend to be activists. They tend to call out Uncle Bob when Uncle Bob says something ridiculous at Thanksgiving dinner. 8s are the people who are not afraid to say something. And it's amazing to have 8s in your life because they are protectors. They are challengers. But if you're an unhealthy 8, then it's everybody we've worked with before. They're the boss that you really don't want to have. And then finally, 9s are all about the harmony. They're the peacemakers. They see the world as peaceful, not peaceful. My mother's a 9. 9s have the ability to empathize with all the other numbers in a way that any other number don't. So that's the brief overview of the 9. Now, each of the animals associated with those 9, right? One is, Natalie, do you want to walk through the animals? You remember them off the top of your head?
I remember them all off the top of my head. I might need some help. So 1 is the owl.
Eagle.
1 is the eagle.
God, see, I'm messing it up already.
Right after that. No, it's all right.
2 is the pelican, right?
It's a
So the 1 is the
pelican.
eagle because the perfectionist will see everything. 2 is the pelican is going to help out people in a way that others aren't going to be helping out and are going to be valuing the world in terms of helpfulness, usefulness, the ability to actually tangibly bring about the flourishing of people. That's what the 2s are all about. It's amazing to have 2s in your life, but please do not take advantage of them.
Yeah.
uh, 3
3
is
is
the performer, right? What's the animal for the
tiger.
performer? The tiger.
The tiger.
And so 4, the authentic types.
Panther.
And we have a very unique panther in the set. You want to do that? Yeah, let's go ahead and explain it now. What's the uniqueness in the panther set?
Well, when we were trying to come up with some unique and very rare ones, we couldn't help but think of some iconic animals that have appeared in pop culture in particular. So we went with the pink panther.
Oh yeah.
Very, very classic panther that comes to mind. So there is a pink panther in the set for.
How many of the 1,000 4s? How many of the 1,000 panthers are pink panthers?
I think it's like somewhere around maybe what was it? I'm looking now.
2 or 3 or 4, somewhere in there.
Something like that. Yeah, it might be 5.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there are a few variations, and we can walk through kind of how we built all the animals.
Yeah.
So the 5 is the owl. That's
5 is the owl.
the wisdom. 6 is what's the 6?
6 is a wolf.
Right.
And we have
7, us otters, right? Some say that 7s are monkeys, but I think otter is a nice playful animal that I think represent us 7s pretty well. 8's no brainer. Y'all are lions.
Lion. We are.
And then 9s are elephants.
9s are the elephants.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So what's the vision here is that obviously we'll spin up a Discord for a community that will talk about Enneagram numbers. We will be selling these NFTs on OpenSea. OpenSea makes it really easy to sort of figure out how you can buy this and have a wallet of your own, buy the NFT, and then showcase that NFT in your own collection. And I would encourage you to find other artists or other creators in your community. If they're not already creating and selling NFTs of their own, you should encourage them to do that. And you should buy them to support your local artists. This is a really cool way that artists are getting, not just visual artists, but performing artists and musicians and others are going to be able to sell their works in NFT form so that they can be supported. And that's just a really exciting part of Web3. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch the NFTs. If it takes off and makes a bunch of money, or even a little bit of money, we're going to use that money to support the formation of EnneagramDAO, an Enneagram decentralized autonomous organization. And the mission of that DAO is to promote the education and use of Enneagram for human flourishing. Meaning we're going to provide all kinds of materials and training opportunities so that people can learn about what your Enneagram type is, how you can communicate more effectively with others, how this can affect you personally, how this can affect your relationships, your work, et cetera, and not just talk about it, not just have educational materials, but actually support the Enneagram coaches that are using this in coaching and therapy and other forms of mental care. And the ability for us to create a marketplace for these people to be able to promote their own works, their own services that they provide as Enneagram coaches, so that more people, when they learn about the Enneagram, can then find somebody that fits their personality type, maybe their Enneagram number, to be able to be able to get some real help, because mental health continues to be an undervalued, underappreciated part of overall healthcare, and we want to take that extremely seriously. So, all right, so let's get to the nitty gritty then. Natalie, what literally have you been doing to build these NFTs? How have you found the layers? How have you thought about the different layers? What's been your approach?
I think when we first started out and talked, we realized pretty quickly that in order to rapidly create, upwards of 9,000 different variations, there needs to be a pretty common base and kit of parts, as Perry said. So it really started out just how can we make a common base shape that's going to work for 9 very differently shaped animals. So borrowing from the Enneagram chart, the circle with all the lines in between it, there's this center void. It's kind of this very interesting shape if you knock it out. So I pretty much just took and borrowed from that because these are Enneagram NFTs, like it should be inherently tied to the whole system and recognizable. So that kind of made the body shape. Yes. So Will,
There
you
it
can see
is. For
that
those that are on the
variable.
video,
Yeah.
Perry just shared his screen, and you can see the outline. And those are the 9 nodes of the Enneagram. And importantly, there are arrows. So where that shape comes from is that each number in health orients themselves toward a particular number. And when they are relatively unhealthy or in a season of unhealth, they orient toward another number. For example, us sevens, when we're in seasons of health, not only are we having fun, but we are orienting ourselves toward the 5s. We love ideas. We love thinking about ideas and reading and exploring the intellectual side of humanity. But when we're in seasons of stress or unhealth, we orient ourselves toward the 1s. We see the world as black and white. We just really want things in a super orderly, perfectionist way, and it become very agitated. So the 7s in your life, you can tell when they're doing well because they're constantly talking about ideas and exploring and wondering about ideas and the wisdom behind that. And you can tell when they're in seasons of stress because they get very black and white, and they want to basically protect and order their world in a way that's more oriented toward the 1. Anyway, each of the 9 nodes have their own proclivities in stress or in health, and that's just another aspect of it. So anyway, yeah, continue on this.
Yeah. So that informed kind of the base shape. So those who are watching, maybe Perry, you can walk through with since you're both, well, I was going to say use the otter since you're both 7s.
Okay.
So we created this base of the animal, trying to pull out some of the visual characteristics that make an otter, so it's recognizable. And then above that, we have created these variables in different layers. So we have arms, so there's different sets of arms that are, in different positions that can be added on top of the base layer. And then there's eyes, so a couple different sets of eyes that we can add on.
Nice.
And then there's what we're calling accessories. So we have a couple different sets of accessories. So Will was very insistent that the otter needs a fishing pole.
A fly rod in particular,
Yeah,
yes.
fly rod with a fish, right? So we tried to pick some things that are very unique to those particular animals, both from an Enneagram perspective as well as just the animal's own characteristics, and then just some fun ones. So all of these combined together are what make the 1,000 variations for each of these, and they get run through the code that Perry has created. So it's very randomized, what's going to come out the other end. So there's only one of each combination. And then, we basically just replicated that across all of the animals. So, tiger shown here.
Nice. Now, importantly, a vision for the DAO is that EnneagramNFTs.com is just the seed. The first collection from EnneagramNFTs.com is just the seed collection. And this is just to kick things off. If this actually takes off and we have people that are really interested in what we're up to here, then we're going to, obviously, in the whole big thing about DAOs is that the treasury and the cap table, i.e. the ownership of that treasury and the governance of it, is all transparent. You can look it up. It is completely public. any of the money that we make from Enneagram NFTs, completely public, right? And the vision is that we would use that base layer of the 9 nodes and allow other artists to create additional NFT collections. And we would split the revenue. Some of the revenue goes into the DAO, some goes to the artist. And that would allow the artist to participate in what we're up to, financially be rewarded for their work, and know that the money is going toward an organization that is promoting the Enneagram for the flourishing of humans and their families and their workspaces and their communities. So that's kind of the big idea. Is there anything that we missed in the talking points, or any sort of final words for you, Natalie and Perry?
I don't think so. So for me, I think we covered most of at least in terms of like the technical parts of how we went about creating this.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, look for it in if you go to OpenSea, you'll be able to search for Enneagram NFTs. You can go to EnneagramNFTs.com. You'll find Enneagram NFTs on Twitter and on Instagram. And this is just the very beginning. So if you want to participate in it, you can join our Discord. There'll be links to the Discord server in the various different socials and our website. And yeah, this is super exciting. Natalie, Perry, can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Thanks
Yes,
for
it's
having
been fun.
All right, a couple quick things before you go. Number 1, I have a general newsletter where I write about technology and startups and health science and teaching people to code. And I write about a variety of different subjects that we talk about on this show. So if you go to wclittle.com, there you'll be able to subscribe, and you'll also be able to subscribe to particular topics. If you're just interested in one or a few of them, you'll be notified right when I publish new content in those areas. Number 2, my partners and I at Proda Ventures have a portfolio company called Startup Rocket. If you go to startuprocket.com, there you'll be able to receive coaching guides and customize an operations framework for you and your team and your advisors to be on the same page in terms of what is the appropriate next step for you and your entrepreneurial journey. And finally, if you wouldn't mind leaving a review anywhere that you have listened to this podcast or watched this podcast, it'd be super helpful to help those who might be interested in consuming this content as well. Thank you.